Okay, what you're going to learn in this tutorial is how to retopologize a male body mesh. You are going to learn how to set up your retopology in a way where you have loops going around muscle groups that are effective for your animate. If you choose to animate the character, for the character to animate properly, you're going to learn how to uh, UV map your character by learning how to put in UV seams. If you look at this character right here, as well as this character right here, this is a high poly mesh right here. This is a low poly mesh. This mesh right here has almost 1,000,000 polygons. If I left click and then go to edit mode, you can see the density of the mesh. If you look beneath my triangle, you can see this has 953,040 triangles, right? I'm going to click to go back to object mode. So here is our low poly mesh that has been retopologized. Another thing you're going to learn is how to put a normal map on your retopologized mesh. So this is a low poly mesh that has a normal map on it, right? So I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to left click to the upper left, go to edit mode, and here you can see beneath my mouse, this has 3,163 triangles in it. So I'm going to click to go back to object mode. So that's what you're going to learn today as you work your way through this tutorial. Okay, what we're going to do now is hold control. I'm going to go to face select. I'm going to press C for paint select and select all of this geometry here. Reason why I'm doing this is because this isn't totally symmetrical as far as this part of the body. However, it's symmetrical enough where we can cut down our workflow by separating this, putting a mirror modifier on it, and then working on one side while the other side is being mirrored. So with this selected, we're going to press P. This brings up our separate menu. We're going to choose selection. We're then going to left click, go to object mode. Okay, we're going to left click here. We're going to click to turn off our mirror modifier. We're now going to go to object, set origin to geometry. So our origin point is now moved right there. Okay, with that done, we're going to go to edit mode. We're going to make sure we're on face select. We're going to try to select half of the geometry. We're going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. You can see from the back. Let's press 1. We did not select. That's Blender jumping there. We have this geometry here, so I'll press C. Press X to bring up our delete menu. Same thing here, we'll press C. Press X to bring up our delete menu. So I think we have half of the geometry now. Okay, we want to make sure we turn off snapping. Now I'm going to go to object mode. I'm going to select add modifier. I'm going to select a mirror modifier. I'm going to scroll down, put a check mark next to clipping. I'm then going to go to edit mode. I'm going to press A to select everything. I'm going to go to select our manipulator, pull to the side just to get the top pieces to connect. I'm then going to left click on nothingness, press A to select everything, push this towards itself. I'm going to scroll up, click this, what looks like a triangle there. Okay, click the triangle just so it looks like we're working with off the geometry. I'm going to go to edge select, select this edge here, push that towards itself, click here, push this towards itself. And right now what we want to do is click this towards itself. We'll hold Control, press R, Control R, roll the mouse wheel once, left click once, left click a second time to lock that in, left click to deselect. We want to work with this like we see this here. However, we're working like this is its own object, and it is its own object. We want to make the basic shape and then rejoin this to the rest of the mesh, and then work to have this connect into the rest of the faces as well as the edge loops. So what we have by doing this is the advantage of not having to do this to both sides. So I'm going to click here, hold Control, right click, click here, hold Control. Now I'm going to hold Shift as well as the middle mouse button to zoom in, hold Shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan in, Control and the middle mouse button zoomed in. Just did that again. I'm gonna click here, hold Shift, click here. I am then gonna press F to fill that there. I'm gonna click here, hold Shift, click there, there, as well as there. Then press F to fill there. Click here, hold Shift, then press F to fill. I'll left click to deselect. Okay, I'm gonna hold Control as well as the middle mouse button. Zoom back, hold Shift. I'm gonna click here, hold Shift, then press F to fill. Here I'm gonna go to the poly strips brush. Left click and drag here. I'm going to go to the select tool there, hold Shift as well as the middle mouse button, pan. Select it. Okay, I'm going to click here. I did that. I'm going to fill that in. I'm going to click. I'll click here, hold Shift, click here as well as here. Press F to fill that in. Click here, hold Shift, click here. Press F to fill that in. I'll left click to deselect. I'm going to hold Control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to click here, hold Control. So now I'm going to left click here, hold Shift, press F to fill. Click here, hold Shift, press F to fill. I'm going to click here, press X to bring up our delete menu. I'm going to choose dissolve edges. I'm going to go to vertex select, click. And that vertex, go to the move tool. Push this towards itself. I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to click here, hold shift, press F to fill, left click here to deselect, click here, holding shift, then I'm going to press F to fill, then left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Okay, I'm going to left click here, hold control, push that towards itself, left click here, hold control, left click there, push that towards itself. I'm gonna roll the mouse, I held the middle mouse button as well as the control button to zoom in. Holding shift, pressing F to fill, left clicking, holding shift, pressing F to fill, left clicking to deselect. I'm holding control to put a loop cut in. I'm going to left click once, left click a second time to lock that loop cut in. I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to hover here, hold control, press R, left click once, left click a second time to lock that in. Left click on nothingness to deselect. I'm going to go to edge select, I'm going to click here, hold shift, well click here, hold shift, click here as well as here. I'm going to hold control, press E. This brings up our edges menu. I'm going to select bridge edge loops. I'm going to hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan the view. I'm going to hover here, hold control, press R, left click once. Because I left click once, I can move that loop cut. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to left click here, hold shift, then press F to fill. Left click to deselect. I'm going to click here, hold shift, then press F to fill. I'm then going to left click here to deselect. I'm going to hover here, hold control, press R, left click a second time to lock that in. Left click a second time, then to lock that in. Okay, what I'm going to do is hold control was the mouse button to zoom back. I go to vertex select, hold alt, click on that edge. I can see this is 9 verts right here. So I'm looking to see where I can put another edge in. So I'm thinking so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here. We're just going to, because I remember we have our mirror modifier, press fill here. So I'm going to hold control, press R for here. I'll go to a left click on nothingness to deselect. I'll go to our poly build tool, go to our vertex select. Go to our select tool, left click here, hold shift, then press F to fill. I'll hover here, hold control, left click once, left click a second time to lock that in. Left click on nothingness to deselect, go to our poly build tool, pull this face out there, go to our select tool. Now left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hover here, hold control, left click once or twice to lock that in. Click here, 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 press F to fill, left click to deselect. I'm going to click here, left click here, press F, then left click to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Holding shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan the view. I'm going to go to vertex select. The reason why this looks like this is because we have back face. I have back face culling on. If you click shading, see this check mark next to back face culling. So back face culling doesn't let you see when you look at the a way that a face isn't facing. Back face culling makes that face transparent. So we're going to go to vertex select, hold alt, left click here. We have 9 faces here. So what we're going to do is click there, hold shift, click here again, press F to fill. So there's a line here, so I'm going to hold control, press R, left click, hold control, press R, left click here to deselect. Okay, so I'm going to, with edge select on, I'm going to click here, hold shift. Okay, I see this here. So what I'm going to do is left click on nothingness. I'm going to go to the poly select tool, pull these faces out there. I'm going to go to the select tool, go to edge select, click here, click there, press F to fill, shift, press F to fill, left click on nothingness to deselect. Okay, for here I'm going to go to, I'm going to hold Alt, select here. So I need that edge loop there. Go to the manipulator tool, click here. Left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hover here, hold control, press R to put a loop cut in. I'm going to left click to lock that in. So I left click twice. I'm going to go to vertex select, click here, hold control, right click, click here. It's hard to see. I apologize. I'm going to hold shift as well as the middle mouse button. I'm going to click here, hold shift, press F to fill, hold control, press R, click here, hold shift, then press F to fill. Left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hover here, hold control, press R, left click once, left click a second time, left click here to deselect. I'm going to click here, hold shift. I select the vertex, I'm clicking again. Now I'm holding shift again. I'm going to press F to fill. I'm going to click here, hold shift. Then I'm going to press F to fill, then left click to deselect. I'm going to hold control as well as the middle mouse button to flip this back around. I'm going to go to object mode. I want to apply the mirror modifier. I'm going to press S to scale on the Z axis. I press R to rotate on the Y axis. I'm going to press S to scale. I'm trying to get this so it's inside of here. Okay, I'm going to hover here, hold Alt, press B, so we can just see this right here now. Okay, what we're going to do is click Add Modifier, and then select Shrink Wrap Modifier. Okay, with the Shrink Wrap Modifier added, we're going to go to Nearest Surface Point. We're going to click here. We're going to change this to Project. Where we see On Surface, we're going to change this to Above Surface. Okay, we're going to go to Target, select the ink dropper, click on our sculpted mesh. We see this right here. We're going to click on what looks like a triangle button here so we can see what we're doing once we go to edit mode. In edit mode, there's not that much geometry here. We're going to hold Control, press R, left click once, left click a second time to lock that in. We're going to go to make sure we're on vertex select, which we are. We're going to press A. We're then going to go to vertex. We're going to select smooth vertices, and then we can repeat that smooth vertices by holding Shift and then pressing R. So I have my fingers on Shift, and I'm just repeatedly pressing R. Still pressing R. Still pressing R. And then that deals with that issue of having these vertices go to the side like they were. I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to go to object mode. In object mode, I'm going to click apply. I'm going to hold Alt, press B so we go back to this regular mode here. I'm going to hold Shift, left click here, hold Control, press J. So now this is one mesh again. I'm going to right click, select Shade Smooth. I'm going to go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, I'm going to click here, hold Control, put another loop cut there. For here, I'm going to hold Alt, left click there. I can see we have 16 vertices. I'm going to left click here, hold Alt, left click there. We have 12 vertices here. So I'm going to left click on nothingness to deselect. We need to deal with some of these vertices here. There's more here than there are there. Right now I'm just looking at the geometry. I got to edge select. I go to the manipulator. I'm going to pull up here. I'm going to press E to extrude, right click, bring these up like this. I click here, press R to rotate. Click here, press R to rotate. Hold Shift, press F to fill. I'm going to left click on nothingness to deselect, hold Alt, left click here, press F to fill, left click to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm We'll do the same thing. We're an edge select. I'm going to click here, press E to extrude, right click, pull this up like this, left click here, press R to rotate, click here, press R to rotate, hold shift, press F to fill, left click to deselect. I'm going to hold Alt, left click here, then press F to fill. I'm going to left click to deselect. Now I'm going to go to vertex select. I'm going to click here. I'm going to turn snapping back on. I'm going to hold Control. So I'm looking to match this up. Control, Control. Then I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to click here, hold Shift, hold Control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom in. I'm going to press F to fill. I'm going to left click to deselect. So I left clicked on nothingness to deselect. I'm going to hold Control as well as the middle mouse button. I'm going to go to Edge Select. I'm going to left click here. Then I'm going to press F, then F, then F. Okay, I'm going to hold Shift, click here, then press F. So that's filled in now. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold Control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to go to Vertex Select, left click here, hold Control, Control, Control. I'm looking here, hold Control as well as Control. Okay, I left click to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to left click here, hold Shift. Then I'm going to press F to fill. I'm going to go to Edge Select. I'm going to left click on nothingness to deselect. I'm going to click here, then press F, F. I'm going to hold Control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm then going to press F and then F. I'm going to hold Shift and then I'm going to press F, then left click to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, rotate the view, hold Control as well as the middle mouse button, pan the view. I'm going to go to Vertex Select. I'm going to hold Alt. This should be 12. So let's hold Alt, click here. This is 12 as well, which is excellent. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to go to Edge Select. I'm going to hold Alt, left click here because I was holding Alt. I selected that whole edge loop. I'm going to hold Shift. So I'm holding Shift as well as Alt. I'm going to click here. Now I'm going to hold Control, press E. That brings up our edge menu. I'm going to select Bridge Edge Loops, and then I'm going to left click to deselect that geometry. Okay, I'm going to hover here, hold Control, press R, roll the mouse wheel once, left click a second time to lock in. Then left click on nothingness to deselect. I'm then going to click on this monitor so we can have our mirror modifier back on. I'm holding Control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold Control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom in. And when I made this model, I put these fingers together, close together. So I'm going to left click on the actual mesh. I'm going to go to edit mode. I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold Shift, press Z. So here's the actual edit mode. The mesh is so dense. I mean, we're in that X-ray mode. You can see that you can barely see through the mesh. I'm going to hold Control, hold the right mouse button. This lets me draw a lasso select. So I have most of these fingers here. I'm going to draw lasso select even more. So now I'm going to press X And then that brought up our delete menu. I'm then going to select vertices to delete. The message so dense it's taking a while. There we go. Okay, I'm going to hold control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom in. Zoomed in too much. I'm going to hold control as well as the right mouse button to draw this loop select. So I'm going to press X. This brings up our delete menu. I'm going to select vertices to delete. What I'm trying to do is get enough space so I can just hover here. Then go to left click to select a vertex, then hold control, then press L. Okay, so I still don't have enough, so I selected everything. So I'm going to hold control while holding the right mouse button, draw a lasso select. I'm going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose vertices to delete. Okay, I'm going to left click on the mesh, hold control, press L. Okay, so now there was enough space here. So when I press control L, whatever's connected to the vertex that I selected gets selected. So now I'm going to press X, which brings up our delete menu. I'm then going to choose vertices to delete. Excellent. Okay, now that I have those other fingers gone, and you might say, why are you doing that? The retopology process we're going to do on this finger, we can duplicate and pretty much make these almost the same fingers. So that's what we're going to do. Right now, I am going to hold shift, right click. So I'll put the 3D cursor here. I'm going to go up here. Not there, that's the proportional editing tool. Here we go. Here's the pivot point. I'm going to click 3D cursor. So I'm going to hold control, hold the right mouse button, draw a lasso select around this part of the finger. Okay, what I want to do is I set this to be the pivot point. I'm going to press R to rotate. I'm going to left click. So now we just turn this finger out some to make space for the other fingers. Okay, I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to hold shift to go back to solid view. I'm going to go to the upper left, then go back to object mode. Then I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to hold control as well as the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom in. I'm going to hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to zoom in. With this 3D cursor here, I'm going to hold shift, press A. This brings up our mesh menu, our add menu. Then I'm in the mesh menu. I'm then going to select cylinder. We have vertices saying 32. We're going to click. We're going to change this to 8. For the I'll press enter. For the cap field type, we'll click here. We'll change this to nothing. Then we'll left click to deselect. Okay, we want to turn off snapping. I'm going to click the cylinder, press S to scale this down. Okay, we want to change the pivot point from the 3D cursor back to Blender's default pivot point, which is the medium point. So I'll left click there. So I'm going to hold R to rotate the cylinder. I'll push this down, push this forward. You see you have to rotate around to see that this is actually inside of that finger in 3D space. I'm going to go to what looks like a square here. I'm going to scroll down to where we see in front. I'm going to put a check mark here. With this selected, we're going to go to edit mode. We'll hold shift, press D, right click. We just duplicated the cylinder by right clicking. And I'm rotating in 3D space to see this going in the thumb. It looks like that's in the thumb, which is good. Okay, I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to go to the upper left, click to go to object mode. I'm going to click on what looks like the wrench. I'm going to click the add modifier. I'm going to go to shrink wrap. I'm going to turn this nearest surface to project. I'm going to see where it says on surface. I'm going to click here, change this to above surface. I'm going to click the target ink dropper, then left click on our mesh there. Okay, I'm going to go to edit mode. I'm going to click this, looks like a triangle, to make it being the modifier look like it's applied. I'm going to press L here, press S to scale, press S to scale on the y-axis. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to left click, hold Alt, click here. This manipulator, see where this says global? We'll click here, we'll change this to local. And that lets us have a little more control. I'm going to hold Alt. When I held Alt and selected here, we're on vertex select, I was able to grab the ring of vertices there. I'm going to hold Alt, select here, pull this forward some. Hold Alt, select here, pull this forward some. I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to hover here, hold Control, press R, roll the mouse wheel twice, left click once, left click a second time to lock that in. Then left click to deselect, hover here, hold Control, press R, roll the mouse wheel once, then left click once, left click a second time to lock that in, then left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to go to the upper left. Left click, then select object mode. I'm then going to go to our modifier panel, then click apply. I'm going to right click, then select shade smooth. Okay, I'm going to click to turn the snapping back on. I'm going to go to the upper left, then go to edit mode. I'm also going to click to turn on the connected proportional editing tool. The proportional editing tool allows you to move more than one vertice, edge, or face at a time. Okay, the regular proportional editing tool affects everything in the area of influence. When I left click here, hold shift, then click here. When I press G, there's the area of influence I was talking about. The connected proportional editing tool affects things in a more localized way. I right clicked, I'm going to press G again. Now when I roll the mouse, we'll see how the other vertices are affected by the proportional editing tool. I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to turn the proportional editing tool off. This is what it looks like when it's on. I'm going to press O twice. That's what it looks like when it's off. I'm going to click this vertex right here. Pull that up so it's not bunched up. I'm going to left click then to deselect. Okay, what I want to do now is go to Edge Select, left click here, hold Control, right click, okay, I want to connect this to the thumb. So I'm going to hold Shift, click here, then press F to fill. Go to Vertex Select, click here, lift that up. Then I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to hold Shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. Okay, I want these vertices to stick to our mesh. I'm going to press C, just because that's easier to deal with the manipulator getting in the way. I'll left click, I'll press C again. Press. Uh-oh. Okay, excellent. See this how it's sticking out? So I'll press G, then left click. So now that's sticking to our mesh. The same type of deal looks like right here. I'll press C. Yeah, I've got to be careful. So I'm selected up here. C, G. So I mean, you got to be careful. Left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to click to turn off the snapping tool. Okay, I'm going to go to face select. I'm going to hold Shift as well as Alt. I'm going to select here, here, as well as here. I'm going to hold Shift, press D, right click, rotating to get more of a top angle. I'm going to change this, the manipulator from local back to global. I'm going to pull this duplicated finger out to the side. I'm going to click to change the Blender pivot point from the medium point to the 3D cursor. The deck that makes it easy to maneuver this finger. I need to move the finger up. I'm going to hold Shift, right click to put a 3D cursor right there. Now I can press R to rotate like that. Okay, now I'm going to hold Shift, press D, right click, make another duplicate, hold Shift, press R to rotate like that. I'm going to hold Shift, press D, right click, pull another finger out, hold Shift, right click, press R to rotate like that. I'll left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to take a look. Okay, I'm going to change the pivot point from the 3D cursor back to Blender's default pivot point, which is the medium point. I'm going to hover here, press L, move this to the side. Then I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Hold Control and too far. We need to go to Edge Select, left click here, hold Shift, click there. When I let go of Shift, I'm clicking here, now I'm clicking there. what I'm looking at is faces to join. Need to have this even, so I'm going to hold control. Left click once, left click a second time. Hover here, hold control. Left click once, left click a second time. Hover here, hold control. Left click once, left click a second time. The reason why I'm doing that is, see on this side we have this like here, but here we don't. So I'm going to hold control, press R, left click once, left click a second time, then left click to deselect. I needed that face to be the same on both sides so I can connect these fingers. So now I'm selecting two edges, holding shift, rotating so I can see them. Now I'm going to hold control, press E, brings up our edges menu. I'm then going to select bridge edge loops. I'm then going to left click to deselect. Okay, so I'm going to click here, hold shift, click here, hold control, press E, select. That brings up our edge menu. I'm going to select bridge edge loop. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to go to face select, hover here, press L, click to bring our manipulator back, just making space. I'm going to go to edge select, left click. Now here, I'm going to left click here, hold shift. Click to take away the manipulator, hold shift, click here. Now with those two edges selected, I'll hold control as well as the mouse button to zoom back. I'll hold control, press E. This brings up our edge menu. I'll select bridge edge loops to connect and left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold Alt, press B, draw this box, which lets us just see and focus on our hand. I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. Click here. Somewhat difficult to maneuver. So I'm going to go to vertex select. Now left click here. I'm going to turn the manipulator on. Push this like this. Hold control, then right click. Right click. I'm going to click to take the manipulator away. Hold shift, select here, then press F to fill. Click here, hold shift, then press F to fill, then left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to go to our poly build tool. Left click and drag, left click and drag, left click and drag. Then I'll click on the select tool. I'll go back to the poly build tool, left click and drag, then I'll click back on the select tool, left click to deselect. I'm going to hold control as well as the mouse button to zoom back. Hold the mouse button to rotate, hold Alt B to bring us out of the mode where the rest of our mesh is hidden. I'm going to left click to deselect. Make sure nothing was selected. I'm going to left click in the upper left hand corner, go to object mode. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, what I'm going to do now is go to the high poly mesh, which is our sculpted mesh. I'm going to take away this triangular arrow looking button there. I'm going to click on our main hand topology, hold shift, click on our main topology, hold control, press J. That joined the two pieces together. Now I'm going to go to the upper left, go to edit mode, hold control, zoom in. I'm going to go to edge select, hold alt, left click. So I selected that top edge there. I'm going to press C to deselect that bottom edge pieces that I don't want. Just want the top. This as well here. Press C. With this transform orientation set to global, I'm going to press, and that's the default, by the way, for Blender. I'm going to press S to scale on the x-axis 0, then left click. That flattens out that geometry there. Okay, with this selected, I'm going to press E to extrude, then right click. I'm going to click to turn our manipulator. I'm going to push this over to about here. I'm going to turn snapping on. Then I'm going to press G, then left click. And now that allowed me to place that geometry right where I want it to go. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, we need to reduce the geometry as it goes towards the wrist from the hands. We're going to go to vertex select. We're going to go to the select tool. We're going to click the area in between the fingers. I'm holding shift. Then we're going to hold alt M. This brings up our merge menu. Then we're going to select at center. We're going to go here, left click, hold shift, hold alt, press M. This brings up our merge menu. We're going to select at center, then left click to deselect. Okay, so we're going to left click, hold shift, hold alt, press M. Merge menu pops up. We're going to select at center. We're going to left click, hold shift, hold alt, press M. The merge menu pops up. We're going to select at center. I'm then going to left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. Holding control to zoom in. We're going to left click, hold shift, hold alt, press M. Our merge menu pops up. We're going to select at center. And this is the area in between the fingers. Left click, hold shift, hold alt, press M. Our merge menu pops up. Select at center, then left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan the view. I'm going to go to edge select, hold alt, left click. By holding alt, I was able to select all the edges there. I'm going to press C for paint select, hold the middle mouse button to deselect, and then right click to get out of paint select. Okay, with this edge selected, I'll press S to scale on the x-axis 0, and then left click to lock that in. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to turn off snapping. I'm then going to press E to extrude, right click. I'm going to go back to our manipulator. I'm going to push this down like this. I'm going to press S to scale, push this way, turn snapping back on, then press G, then left click. Okay, very similar to before. We're going to go to vertex select. Hold alt. The area in between the fingers we'll select. Hold alt, press M. This brings up our merge menu. Select at center. We'll click here. Hold shift. Hold alt, press M. This brings up our merge menu. Select at center. Okay, I'm going to hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to left click here. Hold shift. Hold alt, press M. Select at center. I'll left click here. Hold shift, hold alt, press M. This brings up our merge menu. Select at center. I'll left click to deselect. Okay, why are we doing this again? To reduce the geometry, I'm going to go to the select tool, hold shift, hold alt, press M. This brings up our merge menu. We're going to select at center. Click here, hold shift, hold alt, press M. This brings up our merge menu. We're going to select at center. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, we can reduce the geometry even more. So we're going to hold shift, click here, hold alt, press M, select at center. Click here, hold shift, hold alt, press M. This brings up our merge menu. We'll select at center. We'll click here, hold shift, hold alt, press M. This brings up our merge menu. We'll select at center. We'll click here, hold shift, hold alt, press M. This brings up our merge menu. We'll select at center. We'll left click to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Hold control as well as the middle mouse button to pan. So we'll reduce the geometry more. Click here, hold alt, press M. This brings up our merge menu. We'll select at center. Click here, hold shift, hold alt, press M. We'll select at center. Hold shift, hold alt, press M, select at center, shift, hold alt, brings up our merge menu at center. So we reduced the geometry here and we just went across. Now we're just going across here. Hold shift, hold alt, press M, select at center, hold alt, press M, select our merge menu pops up, select at center, hold shift, hold alt, press M, merge menu pops up, select at center, hold shift, hold alt, press M, our merge menu pops up, select at center. I'll then left click to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'll click here so I can rotate off of that vertex. So what I do is start linking this hand up with the wrist. I'm going to press F to fill. Click here, hold shift, press F, hold shift, and press F to fill. I'm going to click here, press G, get that to snap. I'm going to hold control, press R, left click once, left click a second time to get that to lock in. Click there, hold shift, hold alt, press M. This brings up our merge menu. I'm going to choose at center. Left click here, hold shift, hold alt, press M. This brings up our merge menu. I'm going to select at center. Holding the middle mouse button to rotate. I'm going to hover here, hold control, press R, left click one time. Left click here, hold shift, hold alt, press M, select at center. I'm going to right click here, or hold control right click to put a loop cut in. I'm going to left click, hold shift, click here, select F. Click here, then press F. I'm going to left click to deselect. I turn off snapping. Click our manipulator. See what's going on here. I'm gonna click the select. I'm gonna click here, hold Alt, press M, select at center. Now I'm just seeing where I can get this to link up. Click here, press F, F, F. Left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to go to vertex select, click here, hold shift, click here. I'm going to hold Alt, press M, select at center. I'm going to edge select, click here, press F, fill. And hold Alt, press M, select at center. Click here, hold shift, hold Alt, press M, select at center. And left click to deselect. I'm on vertex select. I'm gonna hold Alt. See how many verts we have. We have 15 verts. Vert standing for vertices. Gonna hold Control. So we have 16 verts. I'm gonna hold Alt. We have 16 verts. I'm gonna hold Control. Press F. Select Grid Fill. I'm gonna left click to lock that in. I'm gonna press C for paint select. Press G. G. Now G. Okay. C. Left click. There we go. C for paint select. Right click. G. Left click. Oh, that's why. Snapping wasn't turned on. So now G, left click. G, left click. There we go. Left click to deselect. I hold Control. I'm gonna go to edge select. Hold Alt, left click here, press X. This brings up our delete menu. I'm going to select dissolve edges. I'm going to hold Alt. I'm going to press X to bring up our delete menu. I'm going to choose dissolve edges. Click here, hold Shift, hold Alt, press M, select at center. Here I'm going to press C, press G, left click to deselect. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to object mode. I'm going to click so we can select our high poly. I'm going to hide that. Go back to edit mode. Okay, I have vertex select on. I'm going to hold Alt, click here. We have 9 verts here. I'm going to join 2 verts across here to make us have 8 verts to speed up this process. Left click to deselect. Okay, so now we're just going to go and clean this up some. Hold M. There we go. Nope, not there we go. Oh, that's right, because we don't have this on. Now there we go. Okay. Hold on first. So I'm trying to clean up this geometry here. Go to select M. I'm merging these vertices. I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm doing this so that we can use grid fill to fill in our fingers. Left click to deselect. Okay, so I'm going to hold Shift as well as I'm in the mouse button. The pan, I'm going to hold Alt. I'm going to turn off snapping. I'm going to hold Control, press F, select grid fill. Span of 2, offset of 1. Hold Alt, Control F. This brings up grid fill. Span of 2, offset of 1. Hold Alt, Control F, grid fill. Span of 2, offset of 1. Left click to deselect. I'm going to hold Alt, Control F, select grid fill, span of 2, offset of 1, left click to deselect. Hold Shift as well as the middle mouse button. Pan, I'm going to hold Alt, Control F, select grid fill, span of 2, offset of 1, left click to deselect. Okay, so now we're going to go to face select, press C for paint select, go to our manipulator. Let's try local. We need to be able to push this way. Try normal. There we go. Left click, press C for paint select. Shift this button and the mouse button to pan. C. Left click to deselect. C. Left click to deselect. Press C. Right click. Left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold Control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom out. I'm going to left click, then go to Object Mode. Okay, we're going to go back to Edit Mode. Okay, I'm going to hold Control. So right there, we need to these verts here just need to be pulled towards each other. So if you're wondering what I'm doing, because we have the mirror modifier on here, when I pull these verts towards each other, the clipping of the mirror modifier makes them join together. So I'm making sure that they are together by selecting them, then trying to move them. So mainly you would find things like that along the center of the body. It's pretty much away from the center. You will not see that. Now left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold Control as well as the middle mouse button. Zoom out, I held Shift and middle mouse button to pan. Okay, so we need to put in UV seams in here. So what we're going to do is go to Edge Select. We're going to hold Alt. Going to hold Shift, hold Alt here. Actually, it's not bad. I'm going to hold Shift, hold Alt here. Hold Shift, hold Alt. Hold Shift, hold Alt. Holding Control. Holding Shift as well as the mouse button to pan. Holding Shift, holding Alt. Holding Shift, holding Alt. Okay, I'm holding Shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to hold Shift, hold Alt to take away that line. I'm going to put the line here instead. So I'll hold Shift as well as Alt to take away that line. So over here I'm going to press C, deselect this line here. I would say the key to UVs and knowing where to put them is thinking about clothes for the most part. How your clothes, where the seams are in your clothes. I'm going to hold Shift, now hold Alt. Well, I'll click here. When I let go of Shift, I'm going to hold Control, then left click there. I use the shortest path technique. Shortest path, you hold Control, picks between two selected points. I'm going to hold Shift. I'm going to press C to deselect this. Right click to deselect. Hold Control as well as the middle mouse button. I'm going to hold Shift as well as Alt. And left click here. Just hold the middle mouse button to rotate. I'm holding the middle mouse button to take a look. Hold Control. I press C to deselect. Here, right click. The reason why I'm doing that is I want this, pretty much the UVs, you want them to be, for the most part, where you can't see them. And you want to, as you do it, you want to think about how you can best get your model to lay out flat. Okay, so with these edges selected, we're going to hold Control, press E. This brings up our edges menu. We're then going to select Mark Seam. Then going to left click to deselect. Okay, another way you can select edges quickly besides holding Alt is holding Control. So I clicked here, I'm holding Control. So when I click here, I used what's called the shortest path technique. I'll hold Control. Now I'll press E. This brings up our edges menu. I'll select Mark Seam. I'll left click to deselect. I'm going to hold Control, hold Shift, click here, hold Shift, hold Control, hold Shift, hold Shift, hold Shift, hold Shift. I'll hold Control, press E. This brings up our edge menu. I'll select Mark Seam, then left click to deselect. Okay, and it's important to get, where the, I don't, hard to not say, I don't particularly care when people say that. You want to get where your seams are at. So along the sides, for here, since we did this in the last tutorial, holding Shift now. When I say the last tutorial, there was a tutorial showing how to do holding shift. Retopology for the head. I'm gonna hold control, press E. This brings up our edge menu. I'm gonna select mark seam, then left click to deselect. I'm gonna hold control, hold shift. I'm gonna hover here, hold control, press R. Left click once, left click a second time to lock that in. Left click to deselect. Okay, I'm gonna go to face select, press C, select here, press G. G, then left click, there we go. I'll press C, right click, press G, left click here, press C, right click, press G, left click. I'll click here, press G. Okay, I'm going to turn snapping off. I'm going to edge select, left click here. I'm going to press G twice. I'm going to left click here, press C. Well, actually, I'll click here, left click, hold control. Turn the manipulator on. Change this back to global. Push this forward. I'll left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold control, hold the mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to click here, hold control, pull this back, left click to deselect, I'm going to hold Alt, left click, hold control, press E. This brings up our edge menu. I'm going to select mark seam, then left click to deselect. I held control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to hold Alt. Hold Shift as well as Alt. Shift as well as Alt. Holding Shift. I'm going to hold Control, press E, then select. That brought up our edge menu. I'm then going to select mark seam, then left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold Control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to left click here, hold Shift, hold Control, then I'm going to hold Control, press E. This brings up our edge menu. I'm going to select mark seam, and then I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to left click here, click on our select. I'm going to hold Shift, hold control. While holding control, I click there. I'm going to hold control, press E. This brings up our edge menu. I'm going to select mark seam. I'm then going to left click to deselect. I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold shift, click here, hold control, press E, then select clear seam, then left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom out. It looks like we have all of our UVs here. We can test this by going to the face select, right? These seams will, if the seams are set up correctly, when we hover over an area, like when we hover here and press L, we'll see this. So we want, just like we see, just the front there. So I'm going to left click to deselect. We'll press L. That's good there. We'll hover here. That's good as well. You see how this is selecting the front as well as the back. That's not good. So what that means is that I'm going to left click to deselect, or I did left click to deselect. It means that there is a seam that is unconnected. So I'm going to hold control as well as the middle mouse button. Right here we can see it. I'm going to hold shift. I didn't need to hold shift. I just click there. And I'm going to hold control, press E. This brings up our edge menu. I'm then going to select mark seam. I'm then going to left click to deselect. Okay, so now when we zoom back, we go back to face select. And then when we hover here and press L, so now we see just the front. That's good. Just the back. That's good. Just the head. That is good. So yeah, we see both for the hands here. That's not good. We have a seam to split the this part from this part. So when you see that, you do just like we did before. Zoom in. See if you can see where the separation isn't. We can see this right here. So what we'll do is click here. We'll left click here, go to edge select, click here, hold control. I'll hold shift. And then I'm gonna hold control, press E, we'll select clear seam, then left click deselect. We'll left click, hold shift. We'll hold control, press E, and then we'll select mark seam, then left click to deselect. Okay, we'll hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. So now what we'll do is hold control to zoom back. We'll go back to face select, hold the middle mouse button to rotate, we'll press L, and now that's correct. So left click to deselect. Okay, so we'll hold control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom back. We should be ready to unwrap now. Okay, you're going to go to your upper right. You'll see a little triangular shape. When you're over it, your mouse will turn to a plus symbol. You're going to left click and drag to the side. And then going to go all the way to your upper left. You're going to left click and then you're going to select UV image editor. Now what you're going to do in edit mode on the right hand side is you're going to make sure you're on face select. You're going to press A to select everything. What you see there is from a previous tutorial, so don't let that get to you. You're going to press U and then you're going to select unwrap. Okay, so what we see here, we can make this be less bunched up in a sense. So what we're going to do is go to the upper part of the screen, left click on UV, then we're going to select minimize stretch. So this will just keep going. Once you see that your UV is more evenly spaced out, you'll press enter to stop that UV minimize stretch. Okay, what we're going to do is look to the this upper button here. We're going to click new. We're going to, this is 1024. I just click that arrow. What you want to do is click to the front of this, put in 4, hold shift, press 8, press enter. Do the same thing here. Be in front of that 1024, 4, hold shift, press 8, then press enter. Change this so it says normal, and then you're going to left click on OK. Okay, I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. I'm going to hold Alt, press A. I find that 4K normal maps, which is what we just made, work very well for normal maps. The file size tends to be about 3 to 5 megs. Okay, what we need to do is look to our upper left, click on image. See this image, there's a little asterisk sign right there. That little asterisk sign lets us know that this image here isn't saved. In Blender, you need to save your textures externally. There's a way where you can pack them in, but for the most part, you want to save them externally. So we clicked on image. We're going to click save as. We are going to make a new folder where you know where it's at. I'm going to name the folder maps. Then I'm going to click save as image to save that normal image to that file. Okay, this isn't a normal map yet. This is what we're going to save to. This will be a normal map. So what we are going to do is, one, we need to click the second button from the top of our panel over to the right. See, this render engine is Eevee. We're going to left click and we're going to switch to cycles. The reason why we're switching to cycles is cycles is currently the only way to, the cycles render engine is currently the only way to bake normal maps. Okay, looking here, I can see this is going off very slightly. I'm going to hover here, press G. Just move that to make sure that it's on here. I'm going to hold Alt, press A to deselect. We have these tabs up here. These tabs are just to make it easy for us to set up to work. So I'm going to left click on shading. What you see right here is from when, from the previous tutorial when we set up the a normal map for the face. You can hover here, roll your mouse wheel, and then click this X button to get rid of that former normal map. Okay, this is set up from the last time. However, I'm going to show you as if you didn't see that from the last time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our material button. I'm going to click minus to take away those materials. So with our Retopology mesh selected, I'm going to select new. So now we have, when we click new, we have this principled shader node pop up as well as this material output node. So what we need to do is add a image texture. So we're going to go to towards the middle of the screen, click add, go to texture, select image texture. That you can see the image texture right there. Now we're going to click add, go to vector. You're going to see a normal as well as a normal map. You don't want the normal, you want the normal map. So you're going to left click on that. Often Blender remembers when we just worked on something. So let's click open just to be careful. So we'll go to where I made that file, which is here. I'll then click Open Image. Okay, when we look here, we can see this color. This is where our normal map is, where we have our image texture. That's going to be our normal map. We don't need this color. So what we want to do is left click here and go to non-color data. So this needs to be set to non-color data. Okay, so normally what we want to do is we want to click here. We want to look down to where we see bake, where we see this bake type normal. Normally this will be combined. We want to click here, change this to normal. So the reason why this was set for normal was because of the work I did in here previously. This bake type needs to be changed from combined to normal, just to be clear. When you scroll down, you need to have a check mark next to selected active. Normally this would not be checked marked. And then for the rate distance, this needs to be set for 0.5 or 0.5. Okay, as far as these nodes right here, the image texture does not need to be connected to the normal map. The normal map does not need to be connected to the principled shader. The only thing that needs to be connected here is the principled shader to the BSDF. The principled BSDF to the material output. Normally, when you work to nodes, they're all connected together. When you bake normal maps, they're not connected. It's definitely different. That's why I'm trying to emphasize that you do not want these connected. Only these two are connected. You also want to make sure that you have the image texture selected, so you can tell it's selected because it's highlighted, and you need this to be selected to have your normal map work. Okay, with all that done, we need to scroll down. We need to click first on our high poly mesh. Then we're going to hold shift, and then while holding shift, we're going to left click on our Retopology mesh. So with those two meshes selected in that order, and with this being the last node clicked on and highlighted, now we can left click on bake. And then underneath my mouse, you can see the progress meter there. Okay, you can see the normal map here. So with the normal map there, what you want to do is go to image, those three bars there. And then you want to click save as. This is very important. Save as image. Okay, so now with the normal map made, what we can do is go to our high poly mesh. We can click this I to hide that high poly mesh. Okay, now what we want to do is come from our image texture from this color, go from the color into the color of the normal map. Where we have the normal map node, we want to go from the normal map to the normal on the principled shader. So from the normal color to the color of the normal map, and then the normal into the normal of the principled BSDF shader. And then that running into the surface of the material output. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click to go to layout. So here in layout, I'm going to hover here. Just taking that little triangular thing at the top to get rid of this. And what I'm going to do is click to go to our look dev or workbench engine, and you can see here is our normal map applied. When I click here, this is us without the normal map. So you can see the detail of the normal map coming through onto our retopology mesh. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll click to bring back our high poly mesh. I'll push this to the side. So this has this shine on here. So let me go to materials. Since they have the same material. So here's the high poly mesh. This is almost 1 million triangles. And this, well, I'll click here so you can see it. I'll click, go to edit mode. So if you look beneath my mouse, there's 953,040 triangles there. So I'll click to the upper left, go back to object mode. I'll click on our retopology mesh, and then I'll click to go to edit mode. And this is actually saying we have that this is 3,163 triangles. When you look at the two, this looks better, and you can take more time with your normal map. However, amazing what you can do, the detail that you can get. I'm going to hold shift as well as the middle mouse button while having a low poly count. Okay, and this, because they're all white, it might be somewhat difficult to see, so I'll darken this. I'll click here, and I'll darken this one as well. So this is almost 1 million polygons, and this is less than 4,000 polygons. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view, just pushing that back. Okay guys, that's it for the tutorial. For all of those of you out there who like the videos on this channel and we share them, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And for those of you who are new to this channel, if you like the videos on this channel, you would like to see more, please subscribe, and thank you for viewing.